Now, just for clarity, I may have a Scottish accent. However, that does not mean to say that I play this game of gowf, as my mother used to call it. Oh, well.
Not bad. Allan, you're heavily involved in the Audi F1 project, which comes to the grid in 2026. What makes now the right time for Audi to come to Formula One?
There's never a perfect time for anything, is there? But at the moment, you come to the new regulations that are in 2026. And so it's a completely different philosophy on the power unit. It's a completely different regulation regarding the chassis. And so from that point of view, it is a kind of reset for everybody. The other thing is that the actual regulations fitted very much to what Audi is doing in the real world in road car development with sustainable fuels, also with bigger electrification. So it's going to be 50% electric power, 50% internal combustion. And so it fitted in so many different ways. But the final part was that the regulations were out and very clear early. So actually you could develop and try and be prepared for 26. The final thing is, crikey, now Formula One is global. You know, I don't think you can find anybody that hasn't seen a Drive to Survive episode or knows who won the last Grand Prix, sort of hears a little bit about it. So it is something that, I have to say, Stefano Domenicali has done a fantastic job of raising the profile of it round about the world.
So are you guys fully expecting to hit the ground running and be competitive from the get-go, or is that a big ask?
It's a huge ask, isn't it? Because the competition, just look at the competition. At Silverstone in Q1, and this blew my mind. You had Max Verstappen that was quickest, Gabriel Bortoleto 17th, half a second between the two.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
If you think back to, you know, when I first drove a Formula One car in 1989, then we were talking about a second between the first and the second row of the grid. And to the back of the grid, you were talking 10 seconds. And so it's so competitive now. I don't think anybody can be assured of performance. If they're a McLaren, a Mercedes, a Ferrari, or whoever, it doesn't matter because it is just so difficult.
Allan, you raced in Formula One for one season with Toyota back in 2002. What do you think stopped you from having a longer career in Formula One?
Quite simply, I was too old. I first drove a Formula One car in '89 and was testing the McLaren 90-91, but that was at a time when there was no data. And so therefore the experience requirement of physically driving was more important. And normally drivers were getting into Formula One 23, 24 years old at that point. However, opportunity never arose. Went to sports car racing, won Le Mans, and it was only by that the opportunity came up to race with Toyota at Le Mans. And then Toyota said, well, we're doing Formula One, do you want to go in? But I was 32 years old. And in reality, I think I was 10 years too late. But when an opportunity comes, you've got to take it. You can't sort of sit around and think, well, you know, I might do it, I might not. You take it and you go for it.
Were there opportunities earlier in your career or never?
There were, but then they were for different teams and different reasons. So, you know, Gerhard Berger, who you know very well, Gerhard was ill in '91 and maybe going to miss the Monaco Grand Prix. And I was on alert to replace Gerhard, which would have been my first Grand Prix against Ayrton Senna in the other car. You know, it was quite a daunting prospect, but Gerhard was fine and was able to race. So there was definitely opportunities. There was different things going on as well with Benetton, who I was with after McLaren. And they were looking at running a third car at the end of the year. There was a possibility of teams running 3 cars. Ultimately, all of the teams decided to stay with 2. And so there was different things like that through the time. But, you know, when it came to it and Toyota said, do you want to be the first ever F1 driver for Toyota, who was the biggest car manufacturer in the world, it didn't take me too long to say, yeah, I'll have a go at that. Thank you very much.
You had a few very big crashes during your career, but you always seemed to bounce back well. Did you ever fear death?
Oh, that's a funny question, actually. I think I probably feared not having the conviction and the mental drive to race again more than necessarily death. I was of an era which, thanks to your grandfather actually, was significantly safer than the previous generation. And so mainly it was leg injuries that you had in my early career. If I'm very frank with you, the crash I had at Le Mans in 2013, not for my personal safety, but for the safety of the other people that were very close by, the marshals and the photographers, that shook me a little bit. That one really did, 2011, apologies. That one shook me a little bit because, you know, these were people that I actually knew. And then you realise actually the difference and how close it is between what is effectively a lucky escape and something that could be much, much worse. But in terms of personal safety, I don't think I actually thought about it in that way because I always went to reduce risks. I always looked at it as a little bit of a risk assessment profile. You were looking at not necessarily taking risks and gambles. You were on the other side, where can you, and if you got into a situation, how do you get out of it? But you're right, I raced for 32 years and I had 3 big monster shunts, and thankfully I was able to get out of them all okay.
From 2017 to 2021, you were the team principal for Audi's Formula E team. How did your experience behind the wheel influence the way you managed the team?
I always said when I was racing, I never wanted to manage or run a team because I didn't want to have to deal with people like me, drivers, because we're the most difficult, I would say, antagonistic people in the world. I had the opportunity to do that, and I was sitting down in a meeting and I'd done all the analysis of how you would look to do it if Audi wanted to go in, and we decided we were going in. And they said, well, team principal, and there was a box with a sort of team schematic and team principal, and they said, yeah, and Allan. And Allan who? And then afterwards I thought about it and thought, actually, yeah, that would be, I'll give that a go. But what I didn't appreciate was how much as a driver you just look through your narrow view. You just see what you see out the visor, and you don't see the bigger picture. You don't see the picture behind you of, you know, the people back at the factory. You literally see the road ahead. And so then suddenly I had to go in a position where I was trying to look through the 2 visors of both drivers and to put myself in their shoes. And I still lived every single lap as if I was driving the car. I couldn't take that out of me. I just couldn't do it. I tried very hard, but it just was impossible. I had so much emotion. I was thinking, right, round the outside, do this, do that, energy management, whatever it may be. But what it did do is it allowed me to understand and communicate sometimes the emotions and things they were feeling, because drivers feel senses. They feel movement. They don't actually translate that to numbers. Engineers translate that to numbers, and you need a communication method. And I could lean on I would say the design side or the engineering side a little bit in a different way to the driver could. And so I think it did help. One thing that was quite clear, they couldn't bullshit me, because they'd come out with excuses, and I've delivered every single one of those in my career. So in that respect, it was actually quite transparent. And I think there was an element of respect, because ultimately, you know, I'd been there and done it. And on the other side of it was actually trying to ensure that they could do the same thing.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it for one simple reason. As a driver, you've got that ultimate responsibility. We spoke about it earlier on. You've got that ultimate responsibility, and you've got that adrenaline surge, and you've got that mental focus of it. It's like going into the first corner. You've just got to make sure that you're ready and adaptable to whatever comes up. And it was the same as a team principal. I had that ultimate responsibility, good or bad. And I had to take responsibility when it went badly. And also, I was fortunate that we had a lot of success as well, and we had a few times standing on the podium in a championship. So, you know, I did enjoy it. But it's funny what you say there, because on the podium in New York when we won our first team's title, that was probably one of the proudest moments of my career. And I include Le Mans victories, American Le Mans Series, whatever it happens to be. I really stood up there and I was super proud, because of everything that we had gone through to get there. And it was so different to being a driver. And that was the first time when I probably had completely switched off being a driver and was on the other side of the fence.
You had an amazing sports car career, winning 3 24-hour Le Mans and the World Endurance Championship in 2013. What was it about sports cars that you enjoyed so much?
Oh, very simple. Overtaking. When I was a kid in karting, one thing that I had a natural feeling for was overtaking. And in sports car racing, because it's multi-class, then that was a big factor in performance. And you were, at Le Mans, for example, you'd be overtaking maybe 10 or 12 cars a lap. So that precision of being able to overtake, understand where to, where not to, how you could do it without losing time was something I really, really enjoyed. And it was a different dynamic to racing that you had in single-seaters. You know, I think we would overtake in, 2 laps of Le Mans more than Max Verstappen would in a whole season of Formula One. Not to say that he can't overtake, but to say that it was just a much bigger factor. And I really enjoyed that.
How different are the driving styles of a sports car compared to a Formula One car?
That's actually a very good question, because it changed a lot through my time, because I raced sports cars in the 90s, the 2000s, and also the 2010s. And so they were very, very different cars. Initially, they were heavy, slow, soft, rolled around, manual gearbox. It was like stirring soup. And then at the end, they were more complex in a Formula One car, because we were recuperating energy from the front axle under braking. We were boosting energy out of the front axle with the internal combustion engine working on the rear. And so it was an interactive, I would say, braking process and accelerating process, all controlled by systems and the driver, which you don't have in Formula One. So I think at the end, they were more complex. Probably the one single thing was aerodynamically, a sports car at the end of my career had more downforce than a Formula One car and less drag, so it was much, much more efficient, but they were heavier. So they were a little bit slower to react. So in the, when you were turning in, for example, through the Beckett section at Silverstone, you would turn in, it was just a little bit slower, whereas a Formula One car was really reactive. And that was probably, from a driving style side of it, the bigger factor. But in terms of the complexity, God, they were complex.
I think Tom Christensen put it really well. He said a Formula One car is very point shoot, and it's so perfect until it's not. Whereas with a sports car, you had a bit more movement, and he likes that, a bit more body movement, go around the corners, taking more curb or using the curb in a way.
Yes, you could, I would say, it had a slight margin of forgiveness on the edges that you don't have with a Formula One car. And so I suppose when you bring it back, a Formula One car was the peak of the peak, and a sports car was slightly lower than that, but it had so many other areas of complexity to it that it was just different. It's funny because Jacques Villeneuve, he won the Indy 500, he won the Formula One World Championship, and he came to do Le Mans. And he struggled, and just parts of it didn't fit with him. But it was quite clear Jacques was an incredible driver, but it just didn't quite fit with him. And there's only been one person that's been able to do that Triple Crown, and there's been a lot of drivers that have came to Le Mans not been able to adapt, whether it be the night, whether it be the overtaking, whatever it may be. But then again, on the other side of it, there is only 20 drivers in Formula One. Oh, nice.
Favorite F1 livery of all time?
Oh, Martini Brabham.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
Brian Clough.
Favorite helmet design?
I really like Didier Pironi's, but I actually modelled mine on a certain Sir Jackie Stewart.
Have you ever peed in a car?
No, tried, couldn't do it.
Give me your F1 dream team, 2 drivers and 1 team principal.
I grew up with Ayrton Senna, and he would have to be in there. And I think Fernando Alonso. And as a team principal, Frank and Patrick actually as a combination, because they were kind of strong characters.
Favorite car you ever raced?
It's the Audi R10 TDI 2008.
What's been the proudest moment of your career?
Finishing off my career in 2013, winning the World Championship, my final race, which was something that I was the last tick in the box.
Favorite track?
Suzuka, Japan, easy.
Give me your Mount Rushmore of Formula One, your top 4 drivers of all time.
I've got to put my Alonso, I've got to put my Senna. Someone that I think is exceptional in so many ways, Lewis Hamilton. Then if I go back into previous era, someone that I never saw but inspired generations of drivers coming through from my country is Jim Clark.